In a quiet American town called Willow Creek, there stood an old nursing home surrounded by tall oak trees. Inside room number 214 lived a 90-year-old woman named Eleanor Whitmore. She was known as the kind old lady of the nursing home, always polite, always calm, but also always alone. No visitors, no family, no phone calls. For years, nurses wondered why someone so gentle had no one in her life. But they didn't know the truth, and they never imagined that one night Eleanor would reveal a secret so dark that it would change everything. The final days. Eleanor's health was failing fast. Doctors said she had only a few days left. On a cold winter night, Nurse Emily Carter was assigned to her room. Emily was new, young, and kind-hearted. As she adjusted Eleanor's blanket, she noticed something strange. Eleanor was crying. Not loud sobs, silent tears. Emily gently asked, "Mrs. Whitmore, are you in pain?" Eleanor slowly turned her head and whispered, "No, I'm in fear." Emily froze. "Fear of what?" she asked. Eleanor closed her eyes and said something that sent chills down Emily's spine. "I don't want to die, not before telling the truth." The secret she carried for 70 years. That night, Eleanor asked Emily to sit beside her bed. She said, "I've been silent for 70 years. If I die without confessing, I'll burn forever." Emily hesitated, but nodded. Eleanor began her story. Back to 1952. "I was 20 years old," Eleanor said. "I lived in New York City. I was young, beautiful, and deeply in love." She fell in love with a married man named Richard Hale. Richard was wealthy, powerful, and dangerous. When Eleanor became pregnant, Richard panicked. "He told me the baby would ruin his life," Eleanor whispered, "so he offered me money." But Eleanor refused. She wanted her child. The night everything changed. One rainy night, Richard came to Eleanor's apartment. They argued. Neighbors heard shouting, then silence. Eleanor's voice trembled as she spoke. "I pushed him." Richard slipped, hit his head on the table, and died instantly. Emily covered her mouth in shock. Eleanor continued, "I didn't call the police. I didn't scream. I ran." A crime hidden by society. Richard's death was ruled an accident. His powerful family covered everything up. Eleanor disappeared. She gave birth to a baby boy and gave him up for adoption. "I thought I was saving him," she said, "but I was only punishing myself." She never married, never had another child. Her entire life became a long prison of guilt. The letter. Eleanor reached under her pillow and pulled out an old envelope. She handed it to Emily. "After I die, give this letter to the police and to my son, if he's alive." Emily opened the letter. Inside was a full confession, names, dates, locations, everything. Eleanor grabbed Emily's hand and whispered, "Tell my son I loved him every single day, even when he didn't know me." Moments later, Eleanor Whitmore took her final breath. What happened after her death? Emily did what Eleanor asked. The police reopened the case. They found records, witnesses, proof. Eleanor's confession was true, and then they found her son, a 70-year-old man living in California. When he read the letter, he cried. He said, "I always felt someone was missing from my life." The final truth. Eleanor was not a monster. She was not a hero. She was just a human who made one terrible mistake and paid for it with 70 years of silence. Ending line, perfect for voiceover. Some secrets don't destroy others. They slowly destroy the one who keeps them.
In the United States, there is a small, quiet town called Willow Creek, a town where people greet each other politely, where nights are silent, and where secrets are buried deep. At the edge of this town stood an old nursing home named St. Mary's Care Center. Most people believed nothing important ever happened there. They were wrong. The woman in room 214. In room number 214 lived a 90-year-old woman named Eleanor Whitmore. She had thin white hair, fragile hands, and eyes that carried decades of pain. The staff knew her as a peaceful woman. She never complained, never asked for visitors, never talked about her past. But one thing was strange. In 15 years, no one had ever come to see her. No family, no children, no friends. Just silence. The nurse who listened. One winter evening, Nurse Emily Carter started her night shift. Emily was 26 years old, kind-hearted, and curious. She always believed every old person had a story worth hearing. When she entered Eleanor's room, she noticed something unusual. Eleanor was awake and crying. Emily softly asked, "Mrs. Whitmore, are you feeling unwell?" Eleanor slowly shook her head. Then she whispered, "I'm running out of time, and I'm terrified." Emily felt a chill. "Terrified of what?" she asked. Eleanor replied, "Of dying with my sins." A request before death. Later that night, Eleanor asked Emily to close the door and sit beside her bed. Her voice was weak, but serious. "I have carried a secret for 70 years, Eleanor said. "If I don't confess it tonight, my soul will never rest." Emily hesitated, but something in Eleanor's eyes told her this was important. She nodded, and Eleanor began. Her life before the secret. "I was born in 1933, Eleanor said. "I grew up in New York City. I had dreams, big dreams. She wanted to become a writer. She wanted love. She wanted freedom. At age 20, she met Richard Hale. Richard was charming, rich, and powerful. He worked in politics. He wore expensive suits. But Richard was married. "I knew it was wrong," she said, "but I was young and lonely." Love that turned into fear. Eleanor fell deeply in love. Richard promised he would leave his wife. He promised a future. Then Eleanor discovered she was pregnant. When she told Richard, everything changed. His face went cold. "He told me the baby would destroy him," Eleanor whispered. "He offered me money to disappear." Eleanor refused. She wanted her child. That's when love turned into fear. The night of the crime. On a stormy night in 1952, Richard came to Eleanor's apartment. They argued, loudly. Neighbors later said they heard shouting, then a sudden silence. Eleanor's hands began to shake. "He threatened to take my baby away," she said. I panicked. She pushed him. Richard slipped, fell, and hit his head on a wooden table. He didn't move. He was dead. A decision that ruined a life. Eleanor froze. She didn't scream. She didn't call the police. She ran. She said, "I was a coward. I chose fear over truth." Richard's powerful family declared Richard's death an accident. The case was closed, and Eleanor disappeared. The child she never held. Months later, Eleanor gave birth to a baby boy. She named him Michael, but she never held him. She said, "I believed he would suffer if he stayed with me, so I gave him up for adoption." That moment broke her forever. A lifetime of punishment. Eleanor never married. She never had another child. She worked small jobs, moved from city to city. Every night, guilt followed her. She said, "My prison had no bars, only memories." As she grew old, the guilt grew louder. The letter under the pillow. Eleanor reached under her pillow and pulled out an old envelope. She handed it to Emily. She said, "This is my confession. After I die, give it to the police." Emily opened it. Inside was everything: names, dates, locations, the full truth. Then Eleanor whispered, "If you find my son, tell him I loved him every single day." Minutes later, Eleanor Whitmore passed away. The truth comes out. Emily kept her promise. The police reopened the case. Records confirmed Eleanor's story, and then they found her son, a 70-year-old man living in California. When he read the letter, he cried uncontrollably. He said, "I always felt something was missing." The final message. Eleanor's secret was finally free, but it cost her an entire lifetime. Powerful ending line for your video. Some secrets don't destroy the world, they destroy the soul that carries them.